that yet. All right. I'd like to call this January 29th facility meeting to order. We've got quite a full table here, so go around the room here. We got board member Peg Pennypacker, our IT wizard Jim Ross is here. I'm your chair, JP Prego. We got Craig Howard, our director of facilities. We got Drew Bishop, our business administrator. We call him the money man. We got Trina Scharschmidt.
You can call me the money woman.
And we got Keith McCarrick, both committee members. Dr. Alan Roach, our superintendent, and Dr. Andrew Grina, our assistant superintendent. So welcome. We'll start with, look for a motion for the approval of minutes from October 23rd, 2023.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to call a quick audible on the agenda, and we're going to go, we'll jump right into the feasibility study since we have the guys from KCBA here. So you can, maybe you don't have to hang the whole time if you don't need to. We'll
That's
stay.
all right. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be back. My name's Michael Kelly with KCBA Architects. With me tonight is Jim Kiefer, who's also an architect with our firm, and Jeff Matchett, who's a principal at Snyder Hoffman Engineering. So over the past year and a half, this is part of the team that have been working with the district on your feasibility study and some master plan planning. Working with Craig and Drew, and when they came on board, we met with you guys in the fall, I think, or just at the end of the summer, to kind of give them an update. This is, again, an opportunity tonight just to very quickly, as fast as I can fly through slides, just kind of show what was provided in the past. There was a lot of study that was done between enrollment studies, sewer studies, pool studies, kitchen studies. There's a lot of information there. We just want to make you aware that that information is there, and then we're happy to answer questions about any of that as you guys look to kind of plan the future goals and things like that for the facilities committee. So again, just in brief, back in 2022, we were brought on board with a larger team to look at many pieces, as I mentioned, enrollment, pool, kitchen, and wastewater treatment. We looked at the elementary schools, the high schools, and the high school campus when it came to athletics, and the idea was to try to put together a bit of a 10-year plan. We're looking at these things operationally, things like roofs and windows and mechanical systems as architects, but since our firm specializes in schools, we're very much looking at the educational environment of those as well. How is that building functioning in modern educational times? A lot of those buildings, as most Pennsylvania schools are, were built several years ago before a lot of different things with building sciences, but certainly a lot of different things with how we deliver education to our students today. So we're evaluating the buildings on all of those things. Projected enrollment, very quickly, you were basically steady-ish from 2013 up to, again, right after 2022. So everything kind of blew up a little bit in 2020, but in 2022, everything seems to kind of be flat, if you will. The projections show that over the next 10 years, it's relatively flat as well. If anything, you're increasing a little bit, about 2%. So it's good to know that. It's good to know you're not shrinking. It's good to know that 10,000 more kids aren't about to show up tomorrow as well. You're essentially keeping about the enrollment that you have, if anything, just as I mentioned, a little bit of an increase. So that's important to kind of understand as well. Kitchen reports went through all of the equipment needs at the high school and actually of all 4 buildings, and that was all provided to Craig and to Drew. As we were just talking about in the hallway, anything that's in that report that's listed that hasn't been addressed, that's been about 18 months. So now you kind of really need to do some of those things if anything was listed as urgent. Pool conditions report. Again, same kind of comments. It's in fair condition. There were a lot of different things that our pool consultant kind of took a look at outside of making a 6-lane pool 8 lanes or providing enough seating capacity for 400 more people. This was really just kind of looking at the guts of that space, how to modernize it for cleanliness and safety and things like that. So again, another big report for that. Wastewater treatment, same thing. You have wastewater treatment at both the elementary schools. They provided a whole big report if you're really sleepy at night and you want to read through all that. But there are some things to consider there. Wastewater treatment plants, no pun intended, are dirty. They take a lot of maintenance and things like that. So other things to kind of consider. The individual assessments and some of the modifications that we were suggesting, again, looking at all 5 schools as well as this building. I forgot to mention that. You're starting with a great foundation. Obviously, the middle school is brand new. The elementary schools are in good condition for their age. But like anything, there's going to be a lot to look at. Certainly the 4 or 5 building as well. Anytime you have a building that was built for one purpose and then used for something else, oftentimes there can be some suggestions there as well. We created what's called a facilities condition index, where we kind of graded everything, kind of like a report card. This is where we looked at things like the inside of the building, the site, mechanical system, plumbing, electric. It just kind of gave a state of degree of issue. If it was a 5, that meant it was really in need of work. A 0 or a 1 meant you've got a little bit of time there. So it's kind of like a golf score, where you kind of want that score to be as low as possible. Most of the buildings really were kind of coming back in that fair level. Again, as you'd imagine, your brand new middle school, it was in really good shape. If anything, the high school needed a little bit more work than some of the other buildings. And primarily that was through what we were calling interior issues, things about the building functionality, code compliance, safety, things like that, that we were just kind of targeting as criticism and some recommendations for the high school. 10-year capital planning. So again, in that book is pages of each of the building, and really breaking down everything from flooring to carpet to lighting. The 10-year capital plan provided we were kind of considering short-term, medium-term, and long-term ideas for each of the buildings. It could be a little tough to read, but Hereford, there were things about some of the electrical conditions there. Marlboro, we talked a little bit about exterior doors that had some security concerns. And then kind of moving on from that for the middle school and the high school and this building as well. We also looked at life cycle costs for each of these buildings. Again, now we're getting really into the nerdy stuff of this. Excel files listing the roof, the structure, the doors, how old they are based on how long they should last. So here's some things that we created, again, for Drew's use for kind of fiscal planning of each building. These are kind of predicting in a way when things should be replaced. And we did that for all the buildings as well. So the improvement plan, the idea was to establish kind of annual budgets for routine maintenance. I mean, these are things that, something is always going to break, but you also want to be a little proactive as you've been to say, all right, we know the roof is a 25-year roof and this is year 30. We should probably be planning for a bit of a roof replacement at some point. As I mentioned, Marlboro, talking about the exterior doors. The 4-5 Center, we looked at some security concerns with the courtyard and various electrical upgrades. We talked a little bit about learning commons as well. Again, when your kids start to get a little older, we try to have some more collaborative spaces and some things that we had heard from teachers and principals that they were interested in including in the student environment areas. At the high school, replacement of things like the PA system there, but also just looking at kind of a modernization of the interior of that space, and again, creating some new kind of academic learning areas that we would see in a brand new high school. These are things that could certainly be renovated or added onto at the existing building. When we took a look at the high schools, just to look at one in particular, we looked at an idea of a new front addition. The front of that building, I mean, really kind of everybody comes from the parking lot area, so where is the front door of the school? And that can be a very big security concern when you're not really sure. People kind of coming in from the side there, or from the gym entrance or something like that. So the area along the main road here, we thought, hey, this could fit in as a little bit of a puzzle piece, maintain that front entrance drive, provide a little bit of a new look to the building, but also provide a lot of functionality to it as well. So this would bring administration and security down to the entrance level, As many of you know, when you enter that building now, there's a little bit of a security vestibule, but then you're kind of at like a half level. You have to kind of go up a half level or down a half level, and it's kind of split. This would bring everything right to the front door, create a little bit of a student commons in the middle space, renovate some science labs, add some science labs, add some more classrooms, add, an expanded music and arts department. So any of these categories could be different, but it allowed us to provide a lot more academics and security features to the front of the door. And then you find these little areas where we talk about blowing things up. You take a classroom and just take that wall out. And now we've got a little bit of a learning commons. These kind of areas, I think we've showed some ideas. This is at Interboro High School down in Delaware County, where we took an area of the floor of an existing building and just cut a hole. That was our old library. We cut a hole in the floor and created a learning stair. And what it did is it provided a central place for the school, a central point of control for students kind of coming and going, but also a commons area for students to meet during the day, meet with teachers, whether they're having some free time during lunch or study hall. You don't have to sit in the back of the auditorium. They can be in an area that's got more natural light and kind of provide some different modern features to your high school. The lower level of that, again, could also have some labs and some additional classroom spaces at the lower level. Student commons next to the cafeteria. The cafeteria is a little undersized. And then kind of targeted areas, again, to create some learning environment. So, the potential idea there, and again, all of this would have to be kind of thrown, you have to add a year to all of these pieces here. The idea of studying something like that over the course of, say, this year, and then starting to implement something like that in the summer of 25, hopes that the addition would be done in the summer of 26, do some more renovating in the summer of 27, and kind of extend that high school enlargement and renovation project over some time. Included in that study as well is a lot of ideas and comments and things about the fields, about expansions there, about field houses and things like that. So that's something to look into for that study as well. But I just wanted to hit kind of the highlights, talk a little bit about the high school, and then see if there's any questions from your committee.
Anybody?
It's a great refresher. I forgot some of that from the last time that you were here in the fall. My biggest question would be, what have you seen as far as costs escalating since last year, and what your projections are for the next year or two? Because I know locally there was a building project put out for Pennsburg Borough. They estimated at 1.3, and it came in at 1.8. Well, the lowest came in 1.8, and the highest was 2.2.
Yeah, everything's gone up a lot, like a lot. And especially mechanical and electrical work. Some of that has doubled in cost in the last 5 years. A lot of that is the marketplace. Post-COVID, there was so much money that went into indoor air quality and renovating older buildings, which is great, but that created a lot of need. And it created shortages. If you wanted to get some electrical equipment today, it'd come in a year. Some of the projects that we're working on, we're pre-ordering equipment, knowing that it's going to take a year to get. So let's order it now, and then we'll bid the project 6 months from now, and they'll install the generator, but we need a 6-month head start for those things. So the cost of all of that has gone up a lot. Now the good news is you guys have been doing a lot of work in those buildings through some GISA projects. Most of the GISA projects, as they're kind of limited to, we'll say, is based on mechanical and electrical issues. So there has been a lot of work in that building, and actually in all your buildings, that have upgraded some of those things. That would be substantially more money if you were bidding those today. So it was good that you did what you did when you did, because a lot of those things have been completed. Now that's not everything, but that's a lot of infrastructure work that would not necessarily have to be included in, say, a renovation of the high school, which is nice in the fact that we could target most of that effort and most of those funds towards academic needs because of some of the work that's already been done in the building.
Okay.
When you talk about things that weren't up to code, do you mean like currently not up to code, or things that look like they're degrading and will soon not be?
A little bit of both. So building codes are primarily looking at safety, but it's also looking at things like handicap accessibility. There is anything that's not handicap accessible is something that needs to be upgraded back in 1992. So those are things that should be addressed. Some of it is just code compliance, but it's also just being more inclusive. Making, okay, I have an elevator, but it's one all the way in the back. So that's not really inclusive if a child or a teacher really has to go out of their way to kind of engage some of those things. Building code wise, just from safety, again, you have a vestibule, but it's disconnected from the admin. So it's there, but it's not ideal. And a couple of other areas like that. I mean, if you're looking at providing we'll say a refreshed or more modern educational delivery method, you don't really have that in the old, what we call bells and cells design of a school, where corridor, a whole bunch of rooms on both sides. You just go from room to room to room. So much more of that now is being offered in a bit more of a collaborative project-based learning environment, which is here just kind of going from room to room to room. And it's as easy as adding a few of those or taking a wall out here or there. I mean, that building is, no one's suggesting to take that down. It's got some good.
Are you not suggesting that? Like this, so doing these suggested renovations would prevent us from having to go that route?
You're not, that building is fine. There's a lot of buildings that when you look at replacing, you go, this has got a few more minutes left. The bones of that building, I mean, there's things to fix up, but that's not one that we would say, no, you should take all those things down. Now there's, if we were going to spend $120 million renovating that, putting in all new HVAC and stuff like that, that's when you might go, all right, 120, you're getting pretty close to a new. But I think with a lot of the work that you've been putting into that building, there's reasons to continue to modify it.
Well, it's
I think
not that
there's
we're
some
necessarily
advantages.
out of code, we're not up to the latest codes, and whenever we do any type of renovation, we have to come up to those updated codes.
Right.
Okay, so it's more, everything's functional, everything is meeting the spec for when it was installed. Okay, but looking forward, we're gonna be spending some money. Like you used the elevator for an example, it's not inclusive. We've got one far end of the building. Well, you probably want one somewhere else to make it easier for, the community, not just students. So, and I'm sure Drew loved that $120 million building cost.
Let's just do that.
All right.
Okay,
Yeah,
that wasn't-
But they have told us previously that all of our buildings are basically in good shape.
Okay.
It's just a matter of doing the renovations that are required to alleviate the existing problems such as the roofs, the vestibules, improving the vestibules and things like that.
Anything else? Good.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem.
Appreciate it. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
So I'm going to jump back one step here to the goals for the facility committee for 23-24. I have a feeling it has to do with what we just talked about. And I guess it's, what do we want to take from that?
Yeah,
How
I
do we
think we
wanna-
put that on there in terms of not losing sight and
Right.
the work that, like I said, 18 months from now, we'll be sitting here going,
Yeah.
how much are it going to cost now? I mean, I think it's a matter of what do we want to get done and what do we at least want to have some direction for us to continue to work on. I agree with what Mike said in terms of the Giza work is very valuable and helpful for not the flashy stuff, not the learning stairs, like
Not the learning stairs.
but it definitely has helped the guts of the building and some additional work that's got to take place there. I just don't want to lose sight of that. I think it's clear from the presentation that the high schools needed some help and support, and I want to make sure that's on there. So it's really
Yeah, we spent the money for this report. We got to use it. We got to use the information from it to do it smart.
Dr. Andrew, I've been working real hard as far as we're putting the facilities planning spreadsheet together that we pretty much have been working on. Me and her have been going back and forth dialogue about that. and we're putting in immediate priority, different things like that, following with Mr. Kelly Hill with the KBC study, and it's just, we're formulating that to where, I don't know if you want to show an example. of it,
Oh, over there,
but
okay.
this is-
So I guess some of the questions, and I'm a stranger here at facilities. You might not know it, but Doug and Craig include me in some of the conversations. But I guess strategically, some of the questions I have is, I did have the opportunity to sit through the GIZA meetings. So we went part one, part A, part B, and then we deferred quite a few ECMs from that. And so one of the questions that I had, as it relates to KCBA's recommendations around electrical, HVAC, and plumbing, was there any crossover? And Mike and I have gone back and forth in some emails just because I wasn't really part of that.
6084.
And so I guess one of the struggles I have without direction, or the goals of the committee is really, what is the priority of that work? So KCBA's, they have a lot of recommendations embedded for every single one of the buildings. And then we knew what was done in part one and part two of the GIZA project, which was really isolated mostly to the high school, quite honestly, right? And then, I guess the question Alan and I keep cycling back to is, what if there's a catastrophic failure of that HVAC, electrical, plumbing? Can kids come to school? And so, that's obviously a big deal to us because we want to make sure we're addressing whatever needs to be addressed. And then what is better served in a construction project, a big project, or can be handled? And so that's the work Craig's speaking about. We're having that dialogue around, what is strategic so that anything we do with the money that the board recommends, we're not undoing in a construction project down the road, right? I mean, we've had those conversations, those of us that have been around the table. And so I guess, that's really how we've been looking at it behind the scenes. And so we have been talking about each building and, doing a ranking, considering what that would look like.
Right.
So I guess that's kind of what Alan refers to, what. Oh,
Dropped out. I don't know what happened.
but, we know there are some things that may be on their last leg. I mean, Craig knows that. I defer to the experts in that arena, but.
At the same time, I think we acknowledge the sensitivity of the topic of renovations and increased sales and, even the cost that took for the district to put the middle school in. I mean, that's a real thing. We can't be ignorant of that. We're not coming in here saying there's 150 million, whatever it is. I mean, that's got to be a balance, and Mr. Bishop will have a better handle on the cliff fall off or the debt service and all that kind of stuff. So it's complicated, and I think we understand and want to be as transparent as we can so that, one, we're making sure we're not having any catastrophes, and we're prepared if that's the case based upon the knowledge we have. But, how serious are we about just simply upgrading, or is it, going to be some of those conversations deeper beyond the facade of I guess I'm thinking about it like, what's that Tetris scheme that you put together on the front of the high school there? And there's some wish things that are in there that certain populations would love to see this or that, or something in the athletic area, or something in the science classrooms, or another area there. So, and at the same time, we just saw a local school district go through a referendum and was unsuccessful. So that's 3 referendums in the state, 1 which passed, 2 which haven't. Not that I'm suggesting a referendum, but 2 have passed. 2 passed, okay. Then, that is another aspect. I don't think we're at that point, but I think it's something to at least put on there about, the balance of our flagship building as the high school.
So I guess the question is, and you brought this up, Andrew, was that you're looking at the open ECMs from the GIZA and seeing if there is overlap with the feasibility study. Have you been finding a lot of that?
Yeah.
The ones that were not completed.
Yeah, anything, their list and our list are very similar. I think we had a few other things, but most of what was on their list, if it's been completed, you completed it. If it's still open, then it still needs to be addressed. The numbers that we were providing, I think in some of those estimates, which again are now a year and a half old, we're still under the assumption that a lot of this Giza work was happening. So again, you're starting in a better place, a building like the high school, because a lot of that stuff has been addressed. So if it is the Tetris piece in the front or some targeted area someplace else in the building, it's really kind of, let's focus on that thing. We don't have to, gut the HVAC system throughout the building, because you have some upgrades that you've already done through the Giza project.
And Provident and ICS were very mindful when they made some of those recommendations and adjustments to have that conversation if this building was renovated, right? It was always under that pretense that that was happening simultaneous, so they were mindful of that.
And we were given the Giza list too, like even though the work was just beginning, we were aware of what was happening and what was not gonna happen out of that list. Like as I'm looking at a couple of those
Yeah.
that are noted as deferred, like those are ones we have in our study that should be done at some point. And some of the stuff that's complete, like they're pretty consistent between the two.
And another reason, again, not to suggest building a new high school, because you just invested a lot of money there. So that the infrastructure of that building has some new pieces to it, which is good. This is about what's the next step. And while I'm sure everyone appreciates, heating and air conditioning, there are some focuses on the stuff that you might see, the finishes, flooring, ceilings, lights, educational components, things that students will touch as well, or kind of the next thing that could be addressed in the building there.
So with this list that you're creating, is there gonna be recommendations from you guys on what you think is, what's dire and what's not?
Dr. Andrew has me on the, she made it very clear what she wants me to focus on when it comes to affecting kids or any students. So that's what we've been focusing on. Making sure, yes. Making sure we're not interrupting any of the work day or student day. So we've really been focusing on that and nailing that down, safety priority.
So what's a realistic timeline that you think to get back to the committee of, here's our top 10 wish list, or top 10 things we think are need to be done?
Hopefully by February we'll meet again.
Okay. So we'll put that on the agenda for new business for next meeting.
Old business.
Old business?
Yeah. Should be continuation of this.
New presentation on old business. We'll watch Drew sweat as we talk about old money things.
Dr. Farina, you would know, is there ever grant money to cover pieces of this?
So there are things on the list that definitely there is availability of grant funds.
The new $100 million that was just passed
Yes.
is about building.
Take that one.
I don't know that you get all of it, but that was passed just last month. Now, the big question, of course, like anything, well, we are being videotaped, so I won't say bad things about Harrisburg. Here's $100 million, and we all went, great, how do we get it? And I went, we'll get back to you. So there's an application process that they have to figure out, but there are some things for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, but it's also, refreshing buildings, handicap accessibility, safety, things like that that could be utilized for that grant. So there is some Pennsylvania money along with other grants and things like that that are out there to look into when looking to refresh older buildings.
Just for historical purposes, whenever we've done upgrades, like a lot of safety issues, we have, Dr. Farina has written for grants for stuff like that. So we are always actively pursuing grants for a lot of our work, no matter what we do.
Do you have a comment, Megan?
Well, the question is it a top 10 list, or are we having a conversation about an on-site renovation? Complete renovation of this?
I think if all the items are in the top 10 that relate to the high school, you could start to consider it.
Well, I think we're going to have to look from it from a couple perspectives. One, what Giza upgrades can we continue doing? What projects can we continue doing that would not interfere with any type of renovations or be detrimental to doing renovations later at the point? That would be wasted money if we did renovations at a later point. So we're going to have to take a high-level look from a couple different angles and decide what we want to do.
And Alan, you always refer to the front of the high school as the Star Trek.
I've been told it's a Starship Enterprise.
Starship.
Thought that was Hereford, looks more like.
No, that's the bounce.
Really looks like
Yeah, I mean, I think as we talked about preparing for tonight, there's the potential at each building to have some things that are quote unquote top 10, and that's a matter of that study. The feasibility study got into all sorts of grade configurations and different possibilities and all that kind of stuff. And but I guess the bigger question is how much of the high school and of a project, the guts, the outside, and then there's, don't forget the wood property that was purchased, which I talked about potentially putting an exit or entrance, something up there, which we don't exactly know, but we have the ability to do that, but who knows what that'll be accessible. I think your thoughts were maybe a right out and right in and not a full entrance. But again, that's going to cost money and be a part of that whole log jam down there on, talk about things you can see. Clearing up that area would be something that everyone could see as a part of that, but not at the cost of, not at the cost of improving our science classrooms and those other things. So it's a lot.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of factors that go into consideration for what makes the top 10 list, or it doesn't have to be top 10, but you know what I'm getting at.
Did we answer Peg's question?
We probably will.
Peg is
I won't know
satisfied, never mind.
until we get
I get it.
more into it, right?
Just,
See what it
just
is.
know, and I'm sure you all know, you can, to do an on-site renovation is possible.
Sure.
I mean, I wish I could take you guys to State College and see what they did on site.
You won't foot that bill for us?
I would. it's
Field trip.
phenomenal.
Is there still PlanCon, or is that still off the table, Drew?
There are no new projects in PlanCon.
So that would have helped some. But
It's being proposed, it has to be approved.
and then they'll figure out a process.
So it's supposedly in the governor's draft budget, but we won't know that for a while.
Yeah.
So PlanCon is partial funding of school projects by the state, so more than just the $100 million that they've provided. It's kind of a prescriptive, you do all these things, you get a certain amount of money back. That program has been on the moratorium for over 10 years now. There's some push to bring it back, but it hasn't been turned back on yet.
If I may, correct me if I'm wrong, if the group was looking at this list as well, we were looking for areas, I think you were pointing to it, JP, areas that maybe could be standalone that are fairly significant, but could be done in a vacuum kind of over a summer or something like that, and take care of that sector of the building, and we wouldn't be touching that building, whether that be a gym thing or something in those areas. We have to go back probably and talk again, because I didn't, in that conversation, I don't think some of us realized that when you drew those ovals to kind of open up the building, that might make a different effect on some of those choices, but.
And there's several things that, even after this report, internally have been addressed.
Right.
A lot of the things in the electrical, just by nature of our improvement process. And then there are other things that we had to address, and, we couldn't wait.
Correct, in a way.
All right, well, I think we have a direction for the next meeting at least, and then I have a feeling that'll be a pretty in-depth conversation going through that list. Okay. I'm going to move on, if everybody's good. We'll go back to the beginning of the agenda. Old business. I'll let you take it, Craig.
Okay, sir. Marlboro Elementary School roof survey report. On Friday, I found out that Doug did a whole infrared scan throughout the district for reports for it, and everything was graded on our roofs, which was that.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Which was, I can actually pull it up if you like, so that you guys can take a peek at it.
Sure.
Now, how do I do?
You want me to pull it up?
How do I do that? Right here?
You want me to do it? Right, are you going to MJS Live?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm going to Mike.
Or do you want me to just open one of the buildings?
Okay, that'd be fine.
Do you have a preference?
You would like to do the hospital? Since we're focusing on talking about the hospital?
Oh, okay.
You seem basic.
So this is something that the district and Doug put together. As you can see, they grade our roofs on different sides of the roofs. So if you see roof, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm not doing it up here, I can't do it this way. So what this does is, and it's a great piece of, it was just a great tool to have for the district. It's a great. So as you can see up there on top, to where it's 9, 13, the athletic wing number 12, number 15. We had some hard rain that come through this past couple of days, and we was able to identify some leaks at the high school. Now, some of the things at the high school, we was able to take care of internally, because it was flashing, screws, different things like that. A little bit of putty, a little bit of things like that. So what Dr. Andrew is showing you, flashing right here, so when the hard rain hits it, it was doing some damage, and it was leaking inside of our building, especially on the athletic wing. So what Doug did and the facilities team is they got an infrared scope, and they was able to go through each building to identify what was the worst, what was good, what was bad, what was out of warranty, what was something that we had to address right immediately and right there. And by us finding that tool in facilities, personally me finding that tool, I'm able to address certain things and to move forward when we talk about roof expansion or fixing the roofs. Go back to the Marlboro. Marlboro is something that we was able to take care of in-house. It was just a lot of flashing, a lot of screws and different things like that. So when I did a roof report before I knew I had this, I had someone come out and give us some, different eye set. And come to find out, we use this company too. And we was able to take care of that in-house. So we was able to minimize a lot of the roof leaks at Marlboro due to the test of all the rain we've been having these last couple of weeks. It's very minute. Now, granted, we did have a couple of ceiling tiles leak, but nothing like it was before.
So this system, Mark Sobek is the contract. I guess that was last year, maybe?
When that was
That
done?
facilities
Yeah.
signed that contract, so.
It was 22.
22.
Yeah.
But, so he actually, if I could go in, the system, you can actually go in the system, it grades all of the buildings, each section of the roof in each of our buildings, including this one, and ranks them A through F, F obviously being health, but also builds a cost matrix for each of those buildings. And then there's a comparative matrix. So if you, I don't know if you want me to, if you're only talking about the high school in Marlboro, I won't do it. You want me to do it?
Yes, sir.
Do it.
Oh, boy. Oh, please. Keep talking.
This would be the whole thing with a sticker shock value attached.
Yeah.
It's interesting because some of it's very little and some of it's wildly expensive. I've got to, I may have to go into my, okay, let me go to my email. Excuse me. Keep talking, Craig.
So like she was trying to bring up, like for instance, prime example, for Marlboro, section 1A,
Why isn't this?
that's 12,000 square foot. For emergency, they're looking at 25,000 out of total for that replacement, for just section A. That's a deficiency in Marlboro. You go to section 2 price is 19,000. So it all depends on how bad and how severely the roof is or what kind of shape it is. Section 1 was graded as a C. Section 2 was graded as a B. So that's where you get the different tiers when it comes to the financial part.
And these are all last year's prices too, right?
Yes. So everything go on.
Marlboro administrative, Fort Five's administrative part was one of those areas, and it was done over the summer.
Right.
So we're aware of that. They didn't do that one. It was one of the worst.
That was one of the worst ones, yes.
So I know when we had KCBA do their study, we told them not to do the roofs because we did have this one. So is that going to be tied into your top 10?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So you
sir.
consider it
Well,
wrong.
consider us. I'll give you as much as information as you guys want, and then you can tell me how you, or we can talk about how we move forward and what direction that you guys,
Yep.
Do we still want to, so we're going to the high school camera assessment?
Yeah, we'll go into that.
Jim has been doing a fantastic job. Keep basically doing what he was doing with Doug. They started adding cameras. We added more cameras in the high school. Recently, I believe we added some more cameras at another school as well. Jim and that gentleman right back there, Mr. Blake, has been working tirelessly to make sure that they're getting all the spots and all the angles that we're looking and the upgrades that we need. So that's still a work in progress,
During our section.
but it's getting much, but we are tying it in now. We just, I believe Jim have RJ coming out pretty soon to do some things.
Yeah, we just did.
Interior or exterior cameras or both?
So in the last year or so, we've done 6 external cameras to, I'm going to talk to you district-wide. Dr. Freed, just chime in here anywhere you want.
Well, I have your our maps if you want me to hand them out now.
That's totally up to you, we can come back to it, but generally, we can show you where we're going, I'll tell you where we've been. We did 6 external cameras to each elementary building, Marlboro, Hereford, and 4-5. We upgraded video storage servers in the high school, Hereford, Marlboro, and 4-5. You noticed I left out the middle school. The intent at the time was that the middle school was new. It is now aging and going on its 4th or 5th year, and not necessarily as compatible as we hoped with everything we've done. So as we've done these changes, we've also unified the system and made sure that it was one pane of glass for Mr. Blake over there, for example. So he has one software set, one common system across the board. And then what Andrea is going to take you into is some other things that relate to the future of that are underway, the next steps. We've also, about in the last 3 months, we've upgraded every single camera in the high school and replaced all the internal cameras in the high school, added 12 new cameras to places like stairwells and dead zones, and blind areas in that area. So
What's the last thing you said?
the high school,
Yeah.
we added 12 cameras to like stairwells and blind zones, those kind of things, right, Rodney? So, so the high school has had effectively a facelift on all of its cameras and its software and its server that runs that facility. And that was all underway under Doug's tutelage. That was something that I had partnered with him, and
If you look at the
he
second
had
tab,
in play.
you'll
so,
see we've marked all the camera systems.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk when we get to safety and security, what else is out there, so.
Yeah, so you'll see, to the point you can see real quickly, Dr. Freed's going to cover this a little bit in more depth, but you'll see a coding system of where each camera is in each building. And is the key in here also, Dr. Freed?
Yeah, it's on the first page in that section, at the very bottom, you'll see red,
Yeah, so on
brown.
the very first page of that second tab at the bottom, you'll see the color codes that'll help you understand what is in place now and what is being evaluated as a next step for the whole district in each building, which
So
includes, to your
Anything that
point.
says new, Jim, is being considered, or it's by this code?
New single lens, new dual, yes.
Yes.
So anything new is what's being considered to add,
Okay.
okay? And then the reds are existing cameras, and the blues, right? So to your point, Peg, there have been outside cameras added in places where there were none, but the high school, for example, still needs a refresh of its outside cameras. So that's going to be in this next phase that we're working on as a district team to
Is there
do.
like a camera,
So-
Rod, is there like a camera room in each, like in the high school? Do we have a monitor room? How are we looking at, is everything computerized?
Yeah.
So you're looking on your computer?
Yeah, but we are working at that, some larger screens as well as part of this, in maybe a assistant principal's office, in the security office in the high school.
Security office, the other security guard, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
So it's covered pretty well.
We talked about new things like every office, making sure that every office, like, and you go into Marlboro, and Marlboro has a camera in the office looking at the visitor desk in case something goes wrong, right? Same thing, we're looking at those kind of standards, and Andrea's helped us think through that to be as standard as possible when we do that, and Rodney's skills, when he thinks about what could happen and what will happen, have come into play there. So I'll leave it at that, but just know that the whole approach and the whole point of the project that's been going on for about the last year has been to unify. When you came here, Rodney, you had to get on, what, 4 different systems?
Yes.
He now gets on one. He is integrated with the middle school, it's just not as effective as we'd like it to be. So this next phase would upgrade the storage and the software in that building.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, that building was built with a different system than the standards were at the time here at the district, the middle school. So some of those things get missed, right? The cameras work, everything is fine. So that's a view of a new camera with the new software, right?
There, yeah, those are stairwells that, those cameras were just installed at the high school, where there was no cameras before there. So it was a blank spot, we have issues, you know, typical teenage issues. But now, we can pinpoint, and the biggest thing is be able to track students where they are. If you have an issue, to track that student, because how it was before is you might get a downward look at a student, and you might have to track different cameras to see where do they wind up, where are they going, just to get that facial view. Now, you know, a lot of cameras in good places where you can capture that.
Cafeteria was a key place, we added a camera. You know, we talked to Rod, and he said, I'm blind here, I can't, and the kids know it, so they'll sit there and cat around. So now we've got better angles, and we looked at this as a space to do a little bit more, as well as the library, you know, some places that we don't have anything, so.
Do we have cameras outside of bathrooms?
We do.
So we do.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we've identified some places, so there he is. He's
Yeah,
checking
working.
I'm soon going to be going home, but he had his bucket, didn't he? So, you know, most of what our camera systems are used are forensic. But we're also looking forward, and we're saying, what can we do? And we've made sure with the provider that we're in play with that we can do some futuristic things as we move forward. Possibly some AI, some artificial intelligence identification of just that's a car, you know, that may be a weapon, that's maybe something else. So I wouldn't say that we're 100% going to be into that, but we're going to be set up for the capabilities to that. So anything new that we buy, we're considering whether it should have that kind of functionality. And that functionality comes from the camera set, to be honest with you. The camera has the technology in it, and it speaks back to, in most cases, especially with this vendor, software that is free, as long as we buy the hardware in their space. So it allows us a lot of opportunity to make this stuff happen. Okay? So it's come a long way, and Doug would be happy as peaches now. Craig and Rodney, yeah, because they basically can see one pane of glass and says logging on 3 times and jumping across. I mean, he can go right from Hereford to the high school in one click.
Are
So-
you basically recording 24/7?
No, so we made some judgment errors there, not judgment errors, we made some judgment decisions there for benefit of storage, and we are 100% recording during the school hours, so say 6:30 to 4, and then we go to motion recording.
Okay, that was a follow-up for that.
And it works very, very well in this new platform.
Mhm.
Do you get a lot of deer outside?
Deer in the headlights. So, as you know, we probably will, we need improvements. We will probably, to that point, do outside recording 100% though. We have not pulled back on that, just the interior
That'd be a good
recording.
thought for the future, yes, considering some of the issues we've
Because
had.
you never know what's sneaking up in the corner.
Yeah.
Like deer.
Like deer?
And
Peg looking for a hockey
And
stick.
Peg creeping around.
So with
I'll go with
the,
my metal detector.
the integration you're talking about with the middle school now,
Yes.
what's the timeline on that?
So that'll
Cost, is that budgeted already?
I'll let Dr. Farina talk about that, because that's part of this next phase where, you know, what we're doing right now is putting together the ability of what's needed in every building, and try to make this holistic. So I think shortly, if we decide to use available funds for it, right? Which I'll let you speak.
One last question for Jim.
Yeah.
What's your story, how long are you keeping the video?
Right now, 30 days.
Okay.
We know we could fall back to 21 and still achieve what we need by what our standards are, but we're actually keeping 30 and we're trying to maintain that.
And then anytime there is an incident in question, you can store that off for indefinite periods of time.
Yeah, Rodney's
The
always
last system was
downloading.
7 days. So you have something happen before the break, and then you come back.
You
every
find
break,
out
like,
afterwards.
Yeah, that's gone.
Yeah.
You know, so this is good.
Perfect. I'm sorry, Dr. Franier, please.
No, I mean, I can wait while you finish your, because that'll all be in.
That's going to roll into what
Yeah.
she's going to cover.
After Rodney.
Yeah, that was the last questions I had concerning it.
So I think it's really become not just the high school assessment, the high school was underway, so were the other buildings. It's really a district-wide approach to the security cameras. And
This is great.
Okay.
Yeah, this was.
It's really come a long way, right, Rodney?
And I'm just showing this, I'll close it. This is what I was referencing. This is the budget matrix from Sobek's system. And to Keith's point, yes, the answer is, $8 million, which is wild. But it also breaks it down by section and gives you the deficit and then a solution which, isn't $8 million. So there's some decision-making that could be made based on the impact of the building that Craig sees. And these are estimates, but yes, also done prior to increase in costs.
This is your prime example, increasing costs. Our trash pickup is going up 12%. We at the facilities meeting at the NCIU are looking, me and Drew had a conversation about it not too long ago. So we're doing an RFP throughout Norristown to see if we can get better pricing. 12% is an amazing jump. That's an unheard of jump. So,
Yeah, go right ahead.
high school softball protective zoning and fencing, we're moving pretty along with that. The weather kind of slowed us down and some supply issues with that, but we do have the fencing, we do have the ground speeds for the foot posts are installed. We're waiting for the yellow fence hopper and the netting material. I have an email out to them, I'm hoping to hear back from them no later than tomorrow. If not, it'll be a phone call made. And that's all we have with old business.
Cool, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, so now we can jump to monthly security report.
All right.
Is that back to you, Amy?
It's coming, that's coming.
And Rodney?
And my friend
Oh, yeah,
Raj.
Rodney. Yeah.
Ready?
Thought you lost it.
I did too.
I just wanted to kind of give you a snapshot of, where we came from and where we're at now, with the security guards and the implementation of guards, armed guards and unarmed guards. So, we started in August with the armed guards. We're kind of nervous about that. That's a big step. And, we got a lot of good feedback for and against, from the public and the board. And, we pushed forward with that. So we, met with vendors. We said, had an RFP want to go out, and we met with vendors. And we went with Cardinal Point Homeland Security Group. So I just kind of want to, and you knew that, so I want to go over guards activity, the reporting, and how we measure those activities. So the guard at Marlboro is David White, and at Hereford is Ruben Rosario, and their duties are kind of mirror each other. They handle arrival and dismissal times. They do routine exterior and interior patrols. A lot of their focus is at recess. That's the bulk of that, and the 4-5 center guard. So they're outside with those children at recess, and if those recesses are canceled, then they're inside. And they also monitor the security cameras, pull a video of minor student incidences that the principal wants them to. The guards at the middle school and the high school are a little bit more involved with student activity, and also they have that traffic component with them. So there's 2 guards at the middle school, an armed guard and an unarmed guard. They handle traffic control. they're also doing the routine exterior and interior patrols. They do investigate student issues. So the guards at the middle school or the elementary school and the 4-5 center, they really don't investigate student issues. So when I say student issues, it could mean a teacher has a student that left their class and has not reported back. You know, where's that kid at? The student issue could be investigating someone got hit in the cafeteria with flying food. Can you pull up the video for that? So they're doing more of those types of investigations. Or, you know, you go into the bathroom and a bathroom check and you find someone with a vape. Those types of things. So they're doing those types of investigations. And they're also pulling kids down for the principals to investigate issues. And they also write discipline reports. So they kind of mirror the middle school and the high school. The high school has an armed guard and 3 full-time unarmed guards and a part-time unarmed guard who comes in at noon and patrols till 6. Like I said, they're all doing traffic control. They're doing routine exterior and interior patrols, investigating student issues and writing discipline reports. So the guards at Marlboro, Hereford, and the 4-5 Center, they really aren't writing those discipline reports, where the guards at the middle school and high school are.
Rodney, the guards that we have now, are they the same that we started with, or have we had any turnover?
The 4-5 Center guard had left to go to Perk Valley School District. They started their own police force there, school district police. So they replaced that guard. I would, you know, knowing what I know of security guard companies, I would think there would be some turnover in that, just because of that. I think that's the nature of that type of business.
Yeah, I think there was some concern with that. You know, we didn't want to have the turnover. We wanted to have to be able to build the relationships with the staff and the students. So it's good to hear.
I don't know if that'll continue. You know, I don't know if that'll continue. But I do, you know, expect that in that type of business that there will be turnover, just because that's that type of field. That's that security guard, Reynolds security guard type field.
Rod, the part-timer at the high school, they're there till what, 6?
18.
So what are they required to patrol?
They do the traffic detail. They come in at noon. So this guard will come in at noon and he reports right to the cafeteria, because there's 2 lunches then when he comes in. The lunch from 12 to 12:30 and then 12:38 to 13 or 1:08. So he'll do 2 lunches, and then from there he does the booth activities. Security guard at the booth, he's stationed there. And then right after that, he goes out to the street to do one of the traffic control components. And then he comes back to the school and does interior and exterior checks, and if there's games or practices going on, he's detailed to that.
So they should be like I'm worried about the after-school hours. So that person is generally patrolling like the whole building?
Yes.
Okay.
But focused on that sports area.
Yeah.
Has he made it over to middle school? We talked about maybe visiting some middle school.
He is not. That'll be coordinated, probably more so in the spring, when we have those middle school events, baseball, things like that, outside. But he has not done that yet, because there's always the high school events.
Because the middle school baseball is kind of 4 or 5.
Yeah, right, you won't want that, yeah. Unless it's needed there, then it'll just be assigned there. So this is like their internal reporting system, just to give you an example, a snapshot of what this is. So Guard Mark Chambers responded to an open door. In his summary, while patrolling the hallway first thing, discovered a stairwell door across from the shop room unsecure, which leads to a large storage area. Checked to confirm those students were in the stairwell and secured the door. So that's a typical report that he would generate, or any of the guards would generate if you find a door open or anything like that. Which, you know, those things happen. You know, the exterior doors being open and propped open, I would say, has decreased significantly. And I think that's just through constant communication, whether it's through tribe talk, talking to kids getting disciplined, you know, by having camera systems, and we're able to see that. more guards, you know, going to those areas, realizing, okay, kids are sneaking out at this time. So by having eyes on that, but, you know, there is that human element, you know, we're not unique that we have prop doors. I talk to my colleagues in other school districts, and it happens there. We just want to, you know, if we can see it, handle it, and deal with that. But I think it's that constant communication, because kids, they don't, you know, they're not going through the door and checking to make sure it's secure. And Craig will tell you, you know, with the atmospheric differences that goes on, you know, from different seasons, one door might close normally, and then in the wintertime or summertime, it closes and it's not going to latch. So, you know, that's constant calls to Craig, like, hey, get your door guy on this and fix this and you know, work on the mechanism so it closes better. So kids aren't going to check that like an adult will. You know, sometimes adults don't check it either. You know, like you know, a teacher might come in and have a lot of large bags and come through the teacher entrance. And as they're coming through, if that bag catches that door and slows that closing mechanism down at all, that door's not going to latch. So we find those, and you know, I don't think it's intentional.
Sure.
But you know, we just got to be. You know.
And Rod, have you had any conversations like with the physical education teachers and, you know, when they go outside? And I'm not picking on them. I was one, and we always left our doors open when we just went outside, you know? And I would imagine it would be challenging for them and probably a change.
It is, but not to pick her out, but Mrs. Cassioli, she does a great job, and you know, she'll call if they're outside in the springtime, and then the student needs to come in, she'll call security guard. We have enough on team now to go out and escort that student and bring that student back in.
And any
They're
conversation?
very mindful of that.
Any conversation with coaches? I just worry so much about the after-school stuff and.
That's going to happen, I think that's going to happen at the spring coaches meeting, where I'm going to come in and take a short segment, maybe shorter than the segment I have tonight, to talk to those coaches just about that. Just remind them of proper doors. Because you're right, Peg, it is an inconvenience for a coach. It's easier to prop that door and let the kids go in and out. I get it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So they have a matrix system or metric system that they use to track different types of incidents, school type incidences. So you'll see 25.35% of all the calls of all the guards have handled respond to open gate / door. Respond to reported incidents of situations, student type incidents, inappropriate behavior, unsecured door, suspicious person, damaged property. So it kind of breaks down that, and in their metric system, you can kind of then click on it and say, okay, this guard handled this many incidences and what school it was, and then it would pull that report up. So yeah, it kind of breaks that down. Inappropriate behavior, student A plus student B hit his head, respond to open door while patrolling that. I think I read that one to you. Investigate report of school student incident. Main office school admin advises student MK was unaccounted for after receiving a pass, and the report continues. So those are those types of reports where the high school and middle school guards are investigating those types of incidents, pulling video, grabbing kids, taking them to the office. So the guard reports 230, 24.35% of those guards responded with doors. 20% of the guards are responding to an incident, such as that incident I just related to you, where the office had called them. I do internal incident reports. I keep a spreadsheet. Craig gets that every month. So far, I'm about 368. That includes a lot of tasks, student escorts, you know, pulling videos, fire drills, those types of
368,
things.
is that per month?
That's since August.
Oh,
Just so I can, you know, because like 2 weeks from now, Craig might say, hey, did you go? And then I can, you know, as I get older, I forget things. So what are we doing? We heard about the camera system updates. I don't think a day goes by that I am not talking security or getting an email or a phone call from Dr. Farina, from someone in the MCIU, from Craig, from Jim, it's really a ramped up effort since when I started. And I'm not saying that we didn't concentrate on security then, but every year, like Dr. Roche had said this many times to me, every year what layer are we at? We're just doing a little bit more. And we've done a lot this year. Every school has a safety team, which I'm a part of, and then there's a district safety team, which Dr. Farina, Mr. Howard, Mr. Roth, and Mr. Bishop's a part of, and then we have a safety committee team, which Elise is a part of, HR is part of that here, and we're meeting every month. We have those meetings to see what's going on, to talk about the issues that we're having, and to talk about maybe our drill schedule. I'll give you an example. One of the district safety team meetings, which led then to the high school safety team meeting, was the backpack issue. And those aren't knee-jerk decisions. Heck, we're going to do it. They're thought out, they're discussed, they're batted around in these safety team meetings, and what's the best thing for our students and our staff and the safety of the school. So that's what's discussed in those types of meetings. We just started this year with a standard response protocol. Our law enforcement partners are aware of that. Mr. Howard and I met with all of our law enforcement partners 2 months ago in an all hazards meeting, and we kind of went over that SRP. Right now, we're really ramping up our reunification efforts. I'm sure you've seen the Parent Square. This is the second week where Alexis put out a blast about our reunification. We just had a meeting about that today at Marlboro, and what that means. And it all kind of builds on each other. We have Alice. We implemented SRP with Crisis Go, and now we're ramping up to reunification. So training. We're constantly talking about training. We're constantly are implementing training, whether that's a fire drill training. We do drills all the time. We have the monthly safety team meetings. And the drills aren't just the standard fire drill. Like we have one tomorrow at one of our schools. We're required to do monthly fire drills, and we can, the first 90 days of school, we have to do a safety type drill. And then we implement safety drills throughout the school year. So for example, Marlboro is, we're getting ready to do a reverse evacuation drill. Bringing kids in from the outside, as though there's an incident going on in the playground. And those types of, we're evacuating the outside, bringing them inside and securing. We did those last year, and we ran a really successful drill with our law enforcement partners in Marlboro to do a reverse evacuation drill and then another evacuation drill once they were inside. And we got feedback from kids. And this isn't just done in a vacuum. There's discussion with the kids. I'll go in and discuss it. The teachers discuss it. There's no, so they all know what's coming on. Like with the Crisis Go, with that app, there's an alarm. The kids hear that ahead of time, and there's discussion about that. And then even at the high school. So our last fire drill, we blocked an exit. The MCIU said, hey, we want to start, the kids know what the fire drill is. Go out this door, go up here. We want you to block an exit. So we combed it off. We had a guard standing there. But I told all the teachers in that hallway, hey, when you hear the fire drill, we're blocking the exit. Just so they know. I don't want anybody to be surprised in the drill. But I want the kids to be, when the teacher gets there, oh, it's blocked. The guard's there, no, this is blocked. You got to find another alternative exit out of the building. Just kind of those things. Just always building upon itself. And like I said, we're doing the reunification drill, and Alice drills, we talk about that, and we have our weekly meetings with our security team. I think I sent you if I can just take a little bit more of your time. I sent you the email just recently about the Alice drill.
Round two. One more.
I
No
just
pressure.
sent it to you. So
I feel the pressure all of a sudden to get the email.
So we want our kids to be,
Technology, should we have
we want our kids to be involved in safety.
How do we do that? At the high school, we have Tribe Talk. Hey, let's make a video, we talk about it. And so they're involved in this, and then we play the video to the kids during their IE.
Wah, wah.
You're not verified.
It was not, never know. My brother,
Okay.
it was not me.
Just kidding. There it is. Is that what you wanted?
That's what I want. Is there sound?
I mean, there should be.
Please pardon this interruption. At this time, students and staff, we are conducting an Alice drill. I repeat, we are conducting an Alice drill. Here's the situation. There's an active shooter in the hallway outside of the guidance and the main offices. Again, active shooter in the hallway outside the guidance and the main offices. Outside of room 214. Again, drill, active shooter moving towards the library outside of room 214. We have an update. Again, this is a drill. We have an update. The active shooter is moving down the ramp towards the 300 wing. Again, the active shooter is moving down the ramp towards the 300 wing.
Safety. You know, what you know, took my fancy most is our kids did that, you know? I mean, I hate to say that we have to talk about safety. I hate going in and talking
I'm like
stuff with
in
kindergartners.
tears right now that we have to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just-
But when those kids get to the high school, because they've been trained the same way since kindergarten, which is sad that we have to do
Yeah.
that, but they know what to do. You know, it's common talk. You know, what do we do? So that kind of gives you a, you know, a little bit of snapshot of where we're at and, you know, where we're going. I just want to thank the board for the camera, you know, increasing footage that we have with our cameras and what you guys did for that. And it's remarkable because I tell you what, the old way was just brutal. It was so time consuming. Now, like Mr. Howard, you know, talked to me about an incident that occurred at Marlboro on Sunday. And I could go and I can look at 24-hour video footage in probably 10 minutes, where before it would have taken hours and hours to do that. So I appreciate the board for their insight on that.
Quick question. How's the reception of the armed guards and the unarmed guards by the student population?
I thought the perception would be shaky with the unarmed guards. What I wanted was that the first 2 weeks, as though they've always been there, and honestly, that's the way it was. There was discussion. What are you going to do? Pull the gun out if we get into a fight? And, you know, I just know because I'm at the high school, my office is there, and how the armed guard at the high school handled that in his discussion with one of the kids there. And then, you know, one of the kids asked me at a football game early on, you know, what are the guards going to do if we're fighting, pull a gun out and shoot us? And, you know, so it brought into a lot of those discussions. And I told teachers and I told the principals there, like, you have any questions, like your kids have any questions, I'll be glad to talk to them about that. You know, what's deemed a threat and, you know, how a guard should handle that. Honestly, it's as though it's always been there.
They've just
Which is-
assimilated and.
Yeah, which is great. You know, fist bumps and, that type of thing. And, you know, we do different patrol procedures in the morning with the armed guard where he's at different spots, so he's seen differently, but it's, you know, hey, Mr. McKnight, you know, it's really good.
Good.
And I see how the little kids react to the guards at Marlboro and Hereford. The Marlboro Armed Guard, I was there, they had a thing right around Christmas time, and I was watching the armed guard there as parents were pulling up. He's grabbing little kids, grabbing them out of their car and then holding their hand and walking them into the thing, you know, I'm like, and then I see Ruben up at Hereford, the kids are coming up and talking to him and high-fiving him, and, you know, and he's in uniform, you know, he's got his gun.
That's great to hear, because, I mean, during our interviews and everything last year, we heard all these negative comments and expectations, and hasn't come to fruition.
Right.
So,
At the same time, we've had a couple rough points, let's say, on social media with students being unruly at an after-school activity. The comment is, well, they can't control the kids, they even have armed guards. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's, you know, it's like, it falls into that illusion that that's going to get pulled out for that. I mean, that's not the case, and we know that, but it gets convenient whichever way.
Yeah, where were the guards out when this happened? And, you know, I know from the police department, you know, your reaction will never beat the action. You know, if a person has intent on doing, damage or injury, the reaction of the person, of the guard or the police officer will never trump that. You know, you're reacting to that action. So you're always kind of behind that. You know, you maybe, you take a position where you might be able to sense that or see if two people are arguing, maybe, you know, get between them a little bit and kind of, you know, de-escalate that. But you just never know. You know, you never know who's coming at somebody.
well, there's always these armchair quarterbacks that critique
Yeah.
everything correctly after it's been happened.
It's social media. Everybody's an expert.
Yes.
I have one tiny little comment I saw in the video, maybe this is taken care of or it was just in the video, but where I am, those doors that have the windows,
Oh,
we're
glad you
required
brought
to
that
put
up.
a little shade down. And we use very low tack, like it can be a paper and we kind of clip at the top, but that's, it's been discussed, okay.
I walked around for 2 days.
Don't take my thunder.
Okay.
Great segue.
Yeah, no, that's a good segment. She'll talk about it.
It's a small thing, but like to implement that is a massive thing, but that's what we did, we pull a little shade down, it's pleated, an accordion.
Yep.
And I just keep a little
What's on?
sticker thing on there, a little
She'll
clip,
show
and I
you.
pull it down during the drill, and that's that.
Yeah, the only time.
It's the only thing I caught in there, I was like,
No, you're right. The only time a gunman actually shot into a classroom where the door was secure was when the person could see into the classroom and they were shooting at targets in there through the glass because they could see through that glass. Other than that, every other school shooting type incident where that door is secure, that's the biggest thing, is the door's locked and secure and that blind is closed, they're gonna move on because they want mass casualty within 3 to 5 minutes because then the cavalry's coming. So if the door's locked, they're going to move on. And we saw that firsthand. I think Mr. Roth was there last year. We had a drill and a door wasn't locked. There was a substitute teacher, no fault of her own, and the police are walking through with us and they're supposed to be secure and, you know, she's trying to lock that door. You know, and we, you know, it was a great discussion point because your gross motor skills, that's what you're going to revert to in a crisis like that, your gross motor skills.
oh,
And you're not going to I'm sorry.
Yeah, so.
But anyway, we're going to segue right into this.
Exit, Steve.
Sorry, I'm exiting right here.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They're great questions.
All right. Go ahead.
Can I steal
Andrea.
some?
Go ahead.
I'm actually going to take that bullet and A from new business in a
Okay.
condensed version.
All right.
So, and I'm going to be really quick. So what you have
here before you is a summary of the tiered safety and security recommendations. This is in the arena of physical security. The second page is everything that is underway related to the criteria. So PCCD outlines tiers of recommendations. You have to satisfy all the tier 1 in order to write grants for tier 2 or tier 3. So I will share, this is all grant funded work. So everything you see here, with the exception, I think, of Marlboro fencing. So I use 2 documents. I use PCCD's criteria as well as Rodney and the team worked to do our risk and vulnerability assessments, where the state police come in and analyze our facilities and make recommendations. And so those 2 documents and recommendations married together for what you see here. So there's tabs on these. Each tab aligns with what we're doing in that arena. So the first one is bollards. We have been through a process where Doug and I wrote a physical security grant for the installation of bollards at all 5 buildings. So the original grant was last year. It was for $49,500 to be specific. We're offsetting that with additional grant funds this year. But what we provided you is the images of where those bollards will be installed. This will be before the beginning of next school year. So the process we're working through right now is with Muhlenberg Green.
This is all
Architect.
2024. Because you have months in here. This is
Right now,
2024.
present,
Now.
moving forward.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So we finalized what we had on 2-3 meetings with Muhlenberg Green to finalize the bollard locations. And so the grand total of that is around $220,000, which will use grant funding to complete. Camera enhancements, you saw, we talked through, the maps are there. The price you're going to see in those first 2 pages of tab 2, there's 2 pages. You know, the total cost is $119, but that's not CoStar prices. And because this is federally funded, we have to go through purchasing that is PEPM or CoStars, and it may be reduced. But that's the total. You will see the recommendation. These are specific cameras. So we met with our vendor, we viewed, I will say, Rodney, Chuck, and Jim have done a wonderful job. They spent like 12 hours one day walking the buildings. They all got all of their physical fitness in.
For the year.
For the year. One of the recommendations is emergency door locks. Rodney just hit the nail on the head. Teachers in an emergency situation have a really hard time with keyed locks. The recommendation is to utilize grant funds to get those emergency push locks and replace all locks
So you
in the
have the
district.
teachers lock the doors now, and what do they use? Do they have a magnet, or they just keep them locked, or you
They,
don't lock?
they keep them locked.
Okay.
These are quick emergency locks. There's no key in the classroom. But as you can see, the lock sets are expensive, which is why there's a recommendation to utilize grant funding for that. That is around $160,000 to do every lock in the district. To Trina's point, lockdown shades. We haven't settled in on the type of lockdown shade, but I think, Trina, in that tab, you'll see it's like a Velcro. It's felt, it sticks up there, you just pull the tab and it covers.
Yeah.
The lion's share of this recommendation right now is measuring every window, because some of our buildings have 10 different size doors or side panels. Our head custodians in the buildings are doing a great job. Shout out to Mike Benfield for the middle school, I think.
Craig will measure them up.
And forget it. So that recommendation is out there. We don't quite have the cost yet. The other recommendation, you'll see quotes for 3M film expansion. And that's to 3M film the main entrances or the easily accessible areas of the district, and then playground fencing. I think that's on new business. Craig is requesting support or approval to move forward that. You will see graphics of what those look like in the very back tab. Just what. So that was really, really quick.
Andrea, is the 3M film for the big windows or the door windows? Like exterior windows or?
So I want to finalize that with Craig.
It's the majority.
It's the majority of
It's
them.
the majority of the entrance doors all around the school. Right now, it's only the main entrance. We've kind of, as they said, Rodney has gotten his exercise for the year, so did Craig and I. Craig probably double. Went around to all the schools and kind of tiered things. I mean, to do the glass, there's not enough grant money anywhere. But right now, it's only the main entrances, so we're kind of expanding all the entrances around there. Continue to fortify that level.
So these are the items that we're currently working to pursue with grant dollars. If you look at the chart, and it's really small, and I'm happy to share a bigger version, we are on the back end exploring additional grant funding to move us along tier 2. So you'll see, I think to Alan's point, window coverings is a tier 2. We'd like to make that recommendation. Intrusion detection. So right now grants are available. So there are meritorious grants for physical security. That's $40,000. Intrusion detection is way more expensive than that. So the other one is a competitive grant. It's for physical security and mental health. You can write for up to $450,000. So in their walkthrough, we've been exploring on the back end for that grant. Of course, they give you 29 days to write every grant, and there's 5 that I'd like to write for in 29 days. Some of them are easier than others, but we've been working to look at enhanced door prop sensors, intrusion detection type of things, but we want to make sure that it integrates with our technology, our framework, our infrastructure, to make that recommendation sustainable. We don't want to spend money that we can't use in the future. So some of that work is being done.
On that same front, I had talked at a previous meeting about bringing someone in for cameras in February. I've since canceled that. And working with Jen and Craig and Andrea, it seemed like that the upgrades and the things that are taking place much more superseded that work. So I know we talked about the walkthrough things, and that can still be something, but I had mentioned that since canceled them with the work that's being done, but I know we talked about it. That was specific to cameras, because that would have been a whole new system out of left field that would have not jived with the work that's been done.
So, we're really looking to pursue and extend and be able to meet as many of the criteria in their baseline criteria framework that we can get grant funding for. On the other side, we have the mental health grant is $141,000 that I'll be writing for, and there's an environmental grant around that was also provided that I've recommended to the team we address abatement at the high school. So.
Okay. Can you explain that a little more? What does that have to do with the?
It's just part of all of the grant.
You're just talking about grants?
Yes, yep.
Okay. How does that relate to the entryway and the
It doesn't.
ballards?
Well, so here's what I will tell you. Some of our camera locations, some of our ability to access infrastructure is impacted on us getting up into the ceilings at the high school. Safely. Right, thank you, safely. Intercoms are being and have been, discussed as well. So there are some limitations when you have to abate something before you can get into it.
One thing we were lax in mentioning, maybe putting on this list as well, another thing that's happened is the high school paging has been remediated in 90 to 95% of the areas where there were issues with wiring, speakers, those kind of things. So that also happened and is still happening. The work that's left to be done is fairly significant, either the ceiling issue or just the amount of effort that our contractor, RJ Electric, has to put into it. We need periods of time when the kids are in school, but that certain classrooms, hallway areas, places where we had dead zones, again, Mr. Blake was involved with that, identifying those areas, helping us decide where we should add a speaker. So it's very similar to the camera project. So that paging system's in a much better place than when KCBA did their surveys and so forth, right?
Yep.
So that also fits in here. Andrew, are you going to say anything about B? Or did I miss that?
Oh, I'm sorry. We did secure walkie-talkies and iPads. We are working toward reunification, and so we'll have emergency communication sets in order to implement and drill the procedure that we put in place starting this year. So we need some dedicated technology in order to make sure that when it's time, or if we ever need to, they're specialized. You'll know them when you see them. If we ever have to see them, they're bright yellow and red cases. So we've had to secure equipment that has been tagged to grant funds in order to facilitate reunification. Sorry.
No, I wanted you to bring that out. So.
Yeah.
And procedures with that. We're going to have to decide how we're going to maintain that, and keep those charged, and so
Right.
there's a lot to those processes.
Yeah, we're just buying it.
Yeah. Throw it in the closet.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Got to work when you need it, right?
Exactly.
So.
Okay.
We'll move on.
Well, so I think we need to talk about the fences, because you're looking for committee approval to do those. So I guess my question is, Drew.
What's in the bank?
Is it in the budget?
Is it in the budget
Is it in the
first?
budget?
Car washes and bake sales.
So, I believe these, were these on Craig, on, prior to those budget sheet? So, yeah, so they were.
They were on the budget sheet, but I don't know if they got moved in that capital money, but I believe we'd be more ESSER for this at this time.
Yeah, we did.
So
Yeah, so we did talk about extra money for those projects.
I thought you said we didn't have all of them.
Does it match?
It could be my mistake. Listen,
For what?
that it was earmarked to ESSER.
I thought it was, but.
Okay.
Oh, it was too. No?
No, yes,
Oh,
if you
yeah,
say
yeah.
it is, it is. I just got it wrong. Craig had it as a capital project. I think originally it was slated as a capital
There was
project.
some, there
but-
was some, in the budget piece, there was some questions, what was initially budgeted and then what was come through on the final budget, and then there was that sweep of 5 million in the capital. So we think some of the decisions that were made towards the end of last year with the previous business manager and the previous director of facilities was that some of this will be covered in the capital piece that was there, because these are capital projects, but they don't need to be, and we have the availability with the ESSER money running out. So to not put it there.
And the amounts match, like, it's the right amount?
You mean
He's doing
for
some.
money that's left over in ESSER, or money that was originally?
For what was earmarked? This amount that he's asking for was earmarked?
Yeah, so the ESSER funds, we can use for any of these projects.
Okay.
And the budget, I mean, with grants, you typically have to do a budgetary revision because you can plan a year in advance or 3 years in advance, and then you just have to revise the budget to show what you actually spend it on, if it's different than what you originally budgeted for.
Okay.
ESSER's was CARES Act, right?
ESSER's.
Right. Is that right?
Sort of.
Kind of. It was part of it.
CARES was first, and then it was
Doug originally had that plan because in our risk and vulnerability assessments, this was one of a significant recommendation in order to fence those communal areas for kids. So,
They're kind of tier 1.
correct, they're tier 1. Bollards and fences are tier 1.
So the split rail at Marlboro, is that gonna be replaced with a split rail?
Yes, ma'am, with the mulch going across, I think it looks good with the split rail, once it's up correctly, yeah. I like the look.
Yes. Very colonial.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
We're keeping it
Hold on.
aesthetic.
So in all total, you're looking about $650,000 for everything on here.
But the approval is.
Not the fence, we're just.
We're
talking
not
about
voting
the
on
fences.
that
I
today.
know, we're approving the playground fencing, but for everything that's presented on this sheet, we're looking about $650,000, which is primarily through ESSER funding.
Well, do we have to even approve the fencing that's come out of ESSER funds?
Yeah, we're sure. I mean, I think it helps that we're
Okay.
coming through. You know,
That's fine.
We want to make sure we're transparent in terms of that
Yeah.
request. But are we requesting the bollards today, or, like, that's what I think he's looking at all the other stuff. So-
Yeah, I mean, I
We're
would,
specifically looking to get the fences on this February meeting for approval, because we want to
Right.
crack a lack, and it's been a while on that one, but I don't know where we are, if we're, you know.
so the PCCD grant was written explicitly for bollards. We do know we have to offset that with some ESSER funds. So I would say if we approve that, then I can get back with Scott, the architect, to do the PID specs and put it on Penn bid, so it can be installed before the beginning of school. So it's really the extra expense.
Right, so if we can get, after we talk about the fences, if we're able to get some direction from the committee that move forward with the bollards, knowing we have $100 and something thousand that's there, we're expecting, let's say, another 30 or 40,000, which is sitting in ESSER, could be wrong number, but we will be coming back to settle up that once we get the final bid specs, and we have ballpark numbers. But do you need a board approval to go forward with the use of the grant that's there? Knowing there's going to be a surplus or an excess that we need to cover?
When the bids are complete, I
They'll
think
have
we would
to-
have to go to board
correct.
approval for the
Correct.
lowest bidder, yeah.
Correct. I just need, the will of this committee to commission Scott to finalize bid
Okay.
specs and.
So we don't need necessarily board approval, but I would say committee consensus if we can do that. Kind of like what we've done before, where we're like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and, expend that piece for the tax assessment or whatever that is. But the first thing is,
All right, so the
we
fences.
want to put the 3 fences on the
Yeah, so is
February agenda.
the committee okay with moving ahead with the fences?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so they can go on the February agenda then for board approval. And then, Jim and Andrew, are you okay to go ahead with getting the bids together for the bollards, right?
Yes.
Good with
Yes.
that as well. Okay. Takes care of that one. Now we got a couple FYIs here.
Yeah, just some information I just wanted to bring to you guys' attention. We already talked about the roof leaks at the high school, so I'll skip that. The band lot at the high school has a small sinkhole. What? So I'm having a contractor come out and give us some ideas on that. We also have a small sinkhole, well, I can't say small, it's relatively a decent size at Marlboro, and we have some sinking pipes that broke off of it as well. So that's on the end of when you're coming out of Marlboro to school, before you hit Green Lane Park on the left-hand side. It says park closes at 5 o'clock, you make that right, come straight, make that left at the stop sign, or make a right wherever you're going. We're right on the corner of that. And it's a big grate, and I have 2 pipes that's busted underneath there as well. So we're gonna have to get that digged up, get
It's
the
not part
pipes
of the state
reconnected.
road or anything, seeing as it's 29?
I don't know, sir. I was hoping that it'd be, but it's on our property, unfortunately. It is on our property, unfortunately. I have a picture of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a picture of it.
So we have that sinkhole looked at too, to see what's causing that, from the same people who look at that one and.
The gentleman is gonna be with me on Wednesday.
Okay. So.
Yeah, that's my alone.
Oh, I thought it was on the roof, but it's on the grass there.
That's
Where is
us. Yeah, that's us.
Where?
One of the drainage.
So if you're at Marlboro and you're going, driving down the driveway with, on your right-hand side is the school and the playground.
Yeah.
You get to the bottom of that hill, and you can go left where it says into the park, like no one really goes that way. You make a right, it's right there. So you're exiting the building.
Yeah, it's not the one up on the grass.
I don't believe so.
No,
Down the line.
down the bottom.
Where are the band
I was just
parking
there, just my
The band parking lot?
sharp, keen observation.
Yeah, if you
skills.
disappear one day.
Where is it?
you go on
It's like
the
going by the high school.
For the, the last little bit of information is our heating and cooling system is possible for upgrades. We pay for our heating and cooling system is through our CMS system to where we're able to see, the different systems throughout of the whole district. For instance, on a Saturday, we got a call that it wasn't heating up enough for the rest of the room, so I'm able to go in there and do adjustments. Only reason why I'm bringing this up because there's a possibility for improvements for that, for us as a district to have more information to where we can know what's going on with the system, the better to dispatch a tech out, to where it could be something that could be handled, it could be something that can be shut off, it could be something that can be reconfigured, filter sizes, belt sizes, different notes and different things that we'll have on the page to where, for instance, like if Phil would get a call saying that, okay, well, this is happening, Freestat, for example, is constantly going out on the system and we're constantly resetting it. We know that, okay, this is a Freestat problem. We'll put the notes up there so we're now we're able to handle that to where we have a 20-degree night, to where we won't lose that system. Because what was happening is we're losing some of our heating and cooling when it gets too cold. And what it's doing is, by the time we get to the building, open up the building, we don't realize until people start complaining. Then when I go online and look at it, see what's going on, our system give us the information, but sometimes you have to dispatch somebody over there to where if we did a little bit of upgrades and tweaking to the system, to where we'll have all that information already there, to where it's be something that's preventable. That's all that is.
Okay.
It was just something I just threw out there, more so on the ABS side of the design, because we pay for it on a monthly basis.
So it'd be an upgrade to an existing system that we already have?
Not so much upgrade, it just gives you more information for our technicians and for our contractors to come in. Because the first thing they do is come into our system and want to see what's going on.
Okay.
All they do is dial in first, and then they proceed to do what they need to do as far as fixing what they need to fix. But the first thing they do is pull up the system.
Yeah, I heard it was a teacher, maybe I saw on Facebook, like, I came in my room after a long weekend, it was 62 degrees or something. Is that what you're talking about?
I'll give you a prime example over at.
Is it real?
Yeah, over at the 405 Center.
It's on Facebook, it's real.
That's what I thought.
Over at the 405 Center, this happened 2 weekends in a row, to where our system over the weekend, of course, is running and is maintaining, and then for some reason on Sunday night, she wants to shut off for us.
Okay, but
Happens last week, and that happened this week. So what I did was I called Connexus ourselves and told Connexus, this is a concerning situation. This is something that's happened twice now. Connexus went on their site and realized it was their problem. It wasn't ours. So they had to come into the system and automatically and do some adjustments. But we pay for it. That's something that's in our contract.
So I think, JP, to answer your question, yeah, I think this is an upgrade to a system that we already have that would provide a little more detailed information. I think we're still kind of investigating it to see if it's something that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a cost associated with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, there is, but again, this is on an FYI list.
Okay.
Just let you know that this is something that can be helpful and may be able to be helpful with work that can be done remotely
Yes.
more efficiently
Right.
at some point.
All right.
And I have on February, it's a late night, I'll have a little diary, I'll have it up on the screen for you guys so you can see, you'll see what we have and we'll see what, we'll compare it to, so you guys
That'll
can
be
see
handy,
it.
yeah.
Yes.
We're also trying to explain to Craig the budget process that we go through yearly, so if there's something that needs to be there, we'll take a look at that process as well.
Okay. Thank you. Move on to public comment.
Craig, will the netting for the softball field be up before it started season?
Yes, sir. It would have been up, in January, Mr. B, but the only reason, the weather. And it was,
Parts in the weather, right?
and the supply chain with the netting. Yes.
We kind of talked about the 2 spots that were in line going to the front of the walk to the backfield. I think we suggested maybe 2 more handicap spots there.
At the high school we were talking about?
At the high school, yeah.
Okay.
You got, it stops there, and you got the old crisscross painting that's all worn out, that was never that corner was never addressed as far as being lined,
Okay.
so.
I'll look at that too. Yeah.
And fencing in general, I think we talked, the double black gate to the backfield.
Right, that was sticking a little bit.
It's a bear, but in the stadium, I mean, almost every gate is almost impossible. And then the locks on there really should be replaced.
All rest it out. Yeah, Brian is
You
aware.
can't open them and lock them.
Yeah, we're looking at that. Brian is looking into that. Yes, sir.
We had that tree issue over on 8th Street, is that rectified where we had to take some trees down or something?
On Red Hill area? Yes, sir. That's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
all done. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I think that's it.
Okay.
I'd like to request a handicap parking spot on this parking lot over here, please.
Did not have.
Valet. Valet is better.
All right, any committee member comments?
Just had it on my.
Good, good. Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Long night, late night. Appreciate everybody being here.
Thank you. Thank you for this.